So what I do is, I always use Eclipse to do the development, okay? And I go to, they did not create a shortcut. I just go to Eclipse and then I start it. Before you start, make sure that definitely you need to understand the problem. Without understanding the problem, there is no way you are going to have a solution. Okay, if you don't know what to do, there is no way you can figure out how to do. Okay, that's very, very useful common sense. Okay, and let's start it with a project. Okay, I'll call this project as Appliance Store. And then I'm ready, I need to do the analysis and figure out what type of classes I will need to have, okay? And if you look at this paper, there's one thing that you need to have, that's inventory, okay? But what's an inventory? An inventory would contain a collection of items, a collection of appliances here. So I need to define the base element. The base element, I call this as an appliance. Okay? I create a class, appliance, and I need to have information to describe that. And if you look at, you have the ID, and what else you have? Number in stock, okay? We see num in stock, okay? And what else you need? Because down the road, you need to figure out how many has been sold, right? So I like to have another one that called num of sold. Does that make sense to you? This is for each appliance. This applies to each appliance. So I need to keep this num of sold within this class. Although, you may say, what I like to do is I create two classes. I say I have appliance and then I have another one that keeps track of how many sold. That's fine. But this problem is overall is a simple problem, so we can combine these two. Okay? We can combine these two. And after all this, what I like to do is I just use getters and setters so that I can encapsulate the fields. Okay, I select all, then I do OK. Then you will say that these methods get generated automatically. Okay, and after that, I will generate a constructor. And this constructor, I read the information from the inventory file, and I need to initialize what's the ID and what's the num in stock. So, but the num of sold should be 0 at the beginning. Okay, so I do not initialize with that. So I click on OK, and you will say, there's a constructor here. So, but also I like to, we say, the num of sold set to 0 at the beginning. Okay? Is this clear to everybody? Okay. And now, we need to think that when we read the information in from the file, the sold, every time we sold one item, we look at the ID from the inventory. We say, which appliance get matched with this ID? And what you are going to do? You are going to increment the number of sold by 1, right? Is that clear? So that's sold another item, things like that, okay? So what I will do is I have another method, okay? And that's increment sold, okay? Or num of sold. Let's do num of sold, okay? Num of sold. So what you will do is you just simply do this dot num of sold plus plus. Does that make sense to you? And after this, you're pretty much done with this appliance. Okay, with this appliance. So everybody get clear about this? Okay. So this is the first class that you need to have. Okay, that's the first class. And now let's look at the next one. We need to have the inventory. We need to manage the inventory. The inventory is a collection of these appliances. Okay? And what we need to do is we create another class, and I call this as inventory. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong place. Okay? And I have the inventory. So what's an inventory? Tell me. Oopsie. Oh. Keep on hitting the wrong. Yeah, what's an inventory? It's the collection of these appliances, right? So what I will do is I need to create a collection. So what I'm going to do is the collection would be a list. Okay? And so this is all items. And essentially we are going to manage this collection. You know, here you see the list cannot be resolved. What you need to do is you do the import, right? And I'm just going to use the help of Eclipse. See the second one. Okay, I do the import. And then I need to have a constructor for this one. So what we are going to do within this constructor, tell me? List is an interface array list, okay. Okay, we create an array list, okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to again do the import. And essentially this would give us an empty inventory. But as we read the information from the file, what we are going to do is we are going to what we have. Don't worry about that. What we are going to do is we are going to add one appliance at a time into this inventory, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to have one method that's called add item. Okay? And this one would have an ID, then have a name of stock. So what we are going to do is we are going to first create an appliance. Oopsie. New appliance. I create an appliance with the ID and the name of stock. I create this one. Then I'm going to add to all items. Clear to everybody? So, folks, you really need to think the logic from the input and output. Don't worry about where I would get the information from the file. Okay, how could I read from the file? That's not the business at this point. Okay, we will have a way to handle the input and output, but we need to separate the logic and the input and output. Okay, that would help you to really have a good modular design. Instead of you are going to mix everything together, okay, you need to separate the functions. You have one part that handles the business part. You have one part that handles the input and output. And you have one thing to handle the modeling of the problem, okay? And once I have one item that gets sold, it was essentially you bring in an ID. What you are going to do at that point? You need to process in the inventory part because we need to add the number of sold, increment the number of sold by 1 for a specific appliance based on the ID. So what I need to do is I need to go through the inventory on all these items, I try to find which appliance get matched with the ID, and then I increment the number of sold for that specific appliance. Does that make sense? So I need to create another method that is called process. Sold. I have the ID. Okay? So what I need to do is I need to go through the collection. How could I go through the collection? You can use an iterator or you can use a for statement here. Here I pick probably something that's more familiar to you folks. Okay? I start from 0, I smaller than all items dot size and I plus plus. And then we get the appliance is equal to all items dot get I get this specific element out. What I need to do next? We need to say if right. What do we need to do? If AP dot get ID is equal to this ID, what are you going to do? So we are going to say AP dot increment number of sold for this one. Okay? And that's it. And here you can optionally have a break, because essentially after you found the ID, it will not get matched another time. So this would increase the efficiency. Okay? If you come out of this break, if you say, oh, I do not like to have the break, it would still work out correctly, but probably not as efficient as you put a break there. Does that make sense to you folks? So I'm going to save it here. Okay?